Hello, and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. Since we are about a month or so out from the start of NFL training camp, I just wanted to sit down and talk about my sleeper teams for the 2026 NFL season. This is, I guess, now a series of videos I've been doing the past couple of years, and I just want to keep it going. So, my definition of a sleeper team is a team that I think could either make the playoffs or could be in possession or in position to compete for a playoff spot late in the season. So, teams that I think could really push for between 8 and 10, really push for 8 to 10 wins, if not more wins in the upcoming season. I'm going to start off with a couple of honorable mentions. My first honorable mention team I want to talk about is the Tennessee Titans. I like things that they've done this offseason. I like that they have hired Robert Saleh as their head coach. I think that is somebody that could really help their defense, or really bring a good culture to their team as well. And I do like that they hired Brian Daboll as their offensive coordinator. He didn't really work out as a head coach for the New York Giants. However, he has proven to be a very good offensive mind, and I think he will be a good help for Cam Ward. Some other notable things that they did in the offseason: they signed John Franklin Myers, defensive end, to help out their defense. They also signed Wan'Dale Robinson, a very good, will most likely be a slot receiver for them, who has experience uh, playing for Brian Daboll, as they both spent time in New York together. And they also drafted Carnell Tate, I believe fourth overall in this year's draft. That's another good offensive weapon, a very good wide receiver. However, I just don't think they have enough pieces right now. I think they have, still some question marks on their offensive line. Um, and as good as Robert Saleh is as a coach, still some questions on their defense and some questions in the running game, with Tony Pollard coming in being their starting running back. So I think they are building towards being a team that could be good in a couple of years. But I think right now they still have some holes on their team, and they play in a very competitive division where the Texans are, always great with a good defense. The Colts, if Daniel Jones is healthy, can play very well, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are coming off of, a playoff push and could potentially compete for the playoffs again this season. So I just think they have too many things working against them to be considered a sleeper this season. But I do want to talk about them as an honorable mention. My second honorable mention, my last honorable mention, is the Vegas Raiders. They are a team that is, surprising. They had the number one overall pick this year in the draft, so they were, the worst team in the NFL this past season. However, they went out, they hired Clint Kubiak as their head coach. He's a good offensive mind to work with their rookie Fernando Mendoza. They also have Kirk Cousins, a veteran quarterback, in that room to help out in that aspect. They have Ashton Jeanty, who's a very good running back. They have Brock Bowers, who's a very good tight end, arguably one of the best tight ends in the league right now. They also did some things to bolster their offensive line a little bit, signing Tyler Lindenbaum and signing wide receiver Jalen Nailor to help be a piece on that offense. They also brought in some key defensive pieces in Kwity Paye, Quay Walker, and Nakobe Dean. But for the defense, I don't think that's enough. They didn't have that great of a defense last season. And offensively, Tyler Lindenbaum helps, does not fix all their offensive line issues. Jalen Nailor helps, does not fix all their issues at wide receiver. They don't have a true number one wide receiver right now. It is kind of Brock Bowers. But, if you take Brock Bowers away, they really lack in the receiving game, and you just don't know what they're going to look like, A, with Kirk Cousins when he starts out the season, and B, how Fernando Mendoza is going to develop and look as a rookie in the NFL. So again, another team, also very tough division, with the Chiefs, who are always competitive if Patrick Mahomes is healthy. The Broncos are coming off of an AFC Championship game appearance, and the Chargers, who were coming off making the playoffs last season and look to have gotten better. So there's another team that competitive division, still have some pieces to put together, but in a couple of years, I think could, be a sleeper team or be a team that can make a run, just not this year. So my honorable mentions out of the way. Let's get into my actual sleeper teams for the 2026 NFL season. Actually, all of them come from the NFC. First off, my first sleeper team is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are a team that I think last season they had a better year than people really give them credit for, mainly for their defense. They had an 8-win season, they had a 9-win season. Every team in the NFC North had a winning record. So the Minnesota Vikings had their defense willing them to wins with J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer starting at quarterback for them. They went out in the offseason and they got signed Kyler Murray in free agency, who is arguably a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy. So they're going to have a quarterback competition. I think whoever wins that competition, whether it is J.J. McCarthy or I think it's probably going to be Kyler Murray at this point, should hopefully have a very good year with this very talented offense. They still have Justin Jefferson to go to. They still have Jordan Addison. Aaron Jones is still a very good running back. Jordan Mason is still a very good running back. They still have this tremendous defense. And they are in a pretty winnable division. They were very competitive with their division last year with their lackluster quarterback play. I think they can continue to be competitive in their division. And of all of my sleeper teams, they have one of the better chances of winning, of being a team I think they could outright win their division and not just be a team that sneaks into the playoffs. So I really like what they did bringing in Kyler Murray. I really like how their defense continues to look with Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator. I really think that Kevin O'Connell can, guide this offense and, help Kyler Murray be the best version that he can be. And I really like the Minnesota Vikings going into this season. My next sleeper team is the Washington Commanders. They're a team that 2 years ago was in the NFC Championship game when their quarterback, Jayden Daniels, was a rookie. They had a very good offense. And then, very good defense led by Dan Quinn. Then last season, Jayden Daniels suffered some injuries. The number one receiver, Terry McLaurin, suffered some injuries. Their defense just kind of got old. So they had, older defense. Just kind of things didn't go their way with injuries. So this season, I think if they're healthy, I think they very much can compete. They went out and signed some pretty good pieces in free agency. They brought in linebacker Leo Chenal, so young, talented linebacker for them. They brought in defensive end Clavion Chason and edge rusher Odafe Owe. So that's two guys that can really get after the quarterback. Clavion Chason had a very good year, very good playoffs last season for the New England Patriots. Odafe Owe has shown that he can have flashes and can play very good football, can be a very productive edge rusher. So I think putting him in a Dan Quinn defense would be very beneficial to him and will really help out this defense. Offensively, they also brought in Chika Okonkwo, tight end Chika Okonkwo. So that's another dynamic pass catcher for Jayden Daniels as he goes into his third year in the league. I think especially if Jayden Daniels stay healthy and they can have, mainly if they can stay healthy this season, I really like what this Commanders team can do. They do have some tough competition in the Eagles. The Cowboys have also continued to get better. The Cowboys had a very good offense last season and have kind of addressed some of their weaker points on their defense. And the Commanders have to deal with my next sleeper team I want to talk about, which is the New York Giants in their same division. The Giants had not a great year last year, fired their head coach, Brian Daboll. They brought in John Harbaugh to be their head coach after the Ravens fired John Harbaugh. And I just really like what the Giants are kind of building with their nucleus of Jackson Dart, a very young, talented quarterback going into his second year. Cam Skattebo, a very talented running back going into his second year in the league. Malik Neighbors, who hopefully can get healthy from his ACL injury. They brought in Isaiah Likely in free agency. That's a very dynamic tight end who has experience with John Harbaugh. They're both in Baltimore together. Have very good defense. They drafted Arvell Reese in the first round as somebody that can help with their already very good pass rush. They have 4 really good pass rushers right now. They've got a pretty good secondary. Maybe some question marks at the linebacker position. They're continuing to try to improve their offensive line, which had been a weak point for years. So they're another team that I just think has been really moving in the right direction in the offseason. Maybe outside of Malik Nabers, there's some question marks at wide receiver. But I really like Isaiah Likely coming in. I really like their ground game, not only with Cam Skattebo, but also Tyron Tracy, who can be a very talented running back and a very good receiver out of the backfield to help take some pressure off of Jackson Dart. I think if Jackson Dart can take a second-year leap like we've seen so many quarterbacks do in the past, as Drake May or Bo Nix last season, or even Caleb Williams last season, we had a handful of quarterbacks do it last year, that I think this Giants team can really make a push for the playoffs this season in a very competitive NFC East division, which we could possibly see. There's a possibility 3 teams could push for playoff spots. And my final sleeper team is the New Orleans Saints. So I talked about at the beginning how I thought that the Minnesota Vikings could be one of the more likely teams on my list to win their division. The Saints are number 1 on my list of teams that could win the division. I do believe the Saints could win, and right now I would pick them to win the NFC South. So one of the things that helps them as a sleeper team, they built some momentum last season with Tyler Shough at quarterback. He got them, I believe, 4 of their 6 wins. They went out in free agency. They signed Travis Etienne, running back out from Jacksonville. Has had some pretty good years. They also brought in Noah Fant. That's not one that'll really, I think, it's not a really blow you away signing, but he could come out and he can be a very good receiving threat if they needed it. Tight end, I think they have Jordan Tyson, who they drafted out of Arizona State, is a very talented wide receiver. They got Chris Olave still there. They also still have Alvin Kamara, who is getting older, so you don't really know what his role is going to look like. They've got a pretty good defense. They've had a very good defense the past few years. And Tyler Shough is another quarterback that I think can make that leap, can build off of what he did as a rookie and really kind of step his game up and improve in year 2. They're also playing in one of the easier divisions in the NFC South. They had a division winner last year that went 8-9. They had like a 3-way tie at 8-9, and the Panthers were the team that just happened to get the tiebreakers. So it's a very it's a competitive division, but it's a division that anybody can win. I think the Saints have been building towards, they've improved. I think they've improved enough. They've been building their team up. They've built some momentum last season with Tyler Shough. They've got a very good offensive-minded coach in Kellen Moore that really helps them out. So I just really like the New Orleans Saints this season. I think that they are not just a sleeper team, but I think as the season gets closer, they are going to be a team that a lot of people are going to start talking about as the team that could win the NFC South and, make a playoff run. But those are my sleeper teams for the 2026 season. My list has actually gone down over the past few years as we've had some teams that have been sleepers in the past that have, kind of jumped into the upper echelon of teams, or teams that could be sleepers but aren't quite good enough or have just lost too much talent over the past couple of years. But those are my sleepers for this season. Let me know in the comments if you have any sleeper teams this season or any surprise teams that you really think more people should be talking about. If teams that you think maybe people should be talking about them more. If you're a fan of a specific team that you think should be getting more attention, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, until next time.